breathe that in, not as a strategy, not as an idea to test, but as a sacred truth already etched in the marrow of your being. For failure is not written in the language of the soul. The soul does not comprehend defeat. It only knows expansion. It only knows expression. It only knows how to pour itself fully into each moment like sunlight spilling across a mountain at dawn, without hesitation, without apology, without the burden of outcome. You were not born to tiptoe your way to the grave, to measure every step against the approval of others or the illusion of safety. You came here not to survive, but to awaken to the unfailing power of who you truly are. A spark of the divine cloaked in temporary skin, sent not to earn love, but to remember that you are love in its purest form. What if you began today with the deep knowing that you cannot truly fail? That every so-called mistake is a redirection, every closed door, a divine rerouting, every loss, a sacred preparation for what is yet to bloom within you. You see, the soul is not interested in whether you succeed in the eyes of the world. It is only interested in whether you show up fully, honestly, and unapologetically as yourself. The Tao teaches that nature never hurries, yet all is accomplished. And so it is with you. The more you live aligned with your inner truth, the less you need to force or grasp or prove. You stop being a puppet dancing for applause and start being a vessel for the infinite. When you remember this, when you embody it, life ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a canvas. You no longer chase purpose, you embody it. You no longer run from fear, you walk with it as a teacher. And in this sacred remembrance, something in you relaxes, like a flower opening without effort, simply because the sun has arrived. To live as if you cannot fail is not to deny the pain, the setbacks, the ache of disappointment. It is to know that none of these define you. They shape you, yes, they refine you, but they do not name you. Your name, your true name, cannot be spoken. It is the hum of the cosmos, the breath of God made form. You are not your past. You are not your reputation. You are not your performance. You are the stillness beneath it all. The awareness that watches, that learns, that rises again and again, not because it must, but because it is its nature to expand. Imagine a tree worrying about the wind, the rain, the seasons. It does not. It roots deeper. It reaches upward. It stands still when needed and bends when the storm insists. You are that tree. And the deeper your roots grow into truth, the less the storms of life can uproot your peace. Do not shrink yourself to fit into the molds carved by fear. Do not wait for perfect timing. Perfection is the disguise of the ego. The soul longs for presence, not performance. Live as if you cannot fail, because what you are expressing is not a product, it is a presence, it is an essence. It is the divine, exploring itself through your unique, unrepeatable form. And yes, the mind will protest. It will bring its tired arguments. What if I fall? It will ask. But the soul will whisper back, but what if you fly? What if you let go of the timeline? What if you surrendered the outcome? What if the goal was never to arrive, but to live from your wholeness, to give your gifts without reserve, to become so aligned with your truth that even your silence speaks? Jesus did not promise certainty, but he embodied love without condition. Rumi did not fear being broken, for he knew that the wound is the place where the light enters. Lao Tzu walked softly, but his wisdom echoes through millennia. These great teachers lived not by avoiding failure, but by trusting the unfolding. They were not immune to pain, but they knew pain was not the enemy, resistance was. To live as if you cannot fail is to live as the ocean does, welcoming all rivers, never clinging to any. It is to realize that you are already enough, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. A being of light, encoded with divine intelligence, capable of creating worlds within and without. So release the grip, drop the mask, abandon the path paved in comparison and expectation. Step into the wild, glorious unknown where your soul already knows the way. You don't need to see the whole staircase, just take the next sacred step and then the next. And let that be enough. In this way, life becomes less about winning and more about witnessing. Less about achievement, more about alignment. You begin to feel a rhythm beneath your feet, guiding you not to the top of a ladder, but into the depths of your being. And in those depths, you find the voice that has never doubted you. The voice that says, you are worthy, not because you succeed, but because you exist. What a radical idea that your worth is not negotiable, that your light is not conditional, that your purpose is not tied to performance. The ego may squirm at this. It thrives on hierarchy, on keeping score, but the soul just smiles. It knows it cannot fail because it never stops loving, never stops giving. never stops being exactly what it is, divine and whole and beautifully, irreversibly free. Live as if you cannot fail, and you will discover that life meets you with grace. Not always ease, but grace. Not always comfort, but clarity. You will find that even your breakdowns carry within them the seeds of breakthrough. That even your silence speaks volumes. That even your stillness moves mountains because it is rooted in truth. Let this be your anthem. Let it echo through your bones. I am not here to perform. I am here to embody. I am not here to impress. I am here to express. I am not here to fear failure. I am here to remember that failure does not exist in the language of the soul. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are not behind. You are the unfolding. You are the flame, not the flicker. You are the mountain, not the shadow. You are the dreamer, the dream, and the dreaming. So live. Live fully, fiercely, freely. Live as if you cannot fail. Because, my dear soul, you never have. Live as if you cannot fail, and watch as the landscape of your life reshapes itself, not through struggle, but through surrender. Let go of the belief that you must earn your place here, as if the very breath you breathe needs to be justified. You were born worthy. You were born radiant. You were born carrying the essence of the divine, not in fragments, but in full. And yet, how quickly we are taught to question that truth, to tie our value to outcomes, to look to the world for validation of what was never the world's to give. The oak tree does not measure its growth against the pine. The moon does not apologize for waxing and waning. The river does not fear the fall, for it trusts in the journey to the sea. Why then do you fear the ebb and flow of your own becoming? Why do you hide your gifts behind the curtain of doubt, waiting for a guarantee that never comes? Life was never meant to be a test you pass. It is a melody you remember, a dance you surrender to, a poem that lives in your bones, waiting to be recited, not with perfect form, but with open heart. To live as if you cannot fail is to embody the truth that your path is sacred, not because of where it leads, but because of how you walk it. Each step, each stumble, each silence contains the entire cosmos. You are not moving through life, you are life moving. You are not chasing meaning, you are meaning unfolding. You are not becoming divine, you are the divine, remembering itself through form and feeling and human fragility. And what a miracle that is. The ego will whisper that safety lies in sameness, that comfort is found in control, that joy is only permitted when all conditions are met, but the soul knows a different truth. The soul knows that the safest place is in truth, that control is an illusion dressed in anxiety, that joy is not a reward but a birthright. When you live from this place, you do not need to chase freedom, you are freedom in motion. You do not need to demand love, you become love's resting place. Yes, there will be moments when fear creeps in like fog, moments when the path ahead seems blurred, when your old wounds rise like ghosts begging to be heard. But even in that, there is beauty, for nothing surfaces unless it is ready to be healed. And healing is not a straight line, it is a spiral, a sacred undoing of everything that is not true until only the truth remains. You are light. You are love. You are limitless. To live as if you cannot fail is to know that every experience is here not to define you, but to refine you. Every rejection is redirection. Every delay is divine timing. Every closed door is the universe protecting you from what is not aligned. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. Trust that. Trust the detours. Trust the pauses. Trust the unraveling. It is all part of the sacred choreography designed to bring you home to yourself. And what is this self you are returning to? It is not the self that performs, not the self that pleases, not the self that strives. It is the self that simply is. The self that existed before the first name was spoken. The self that does not need to be fixed, only felt. The self that hears the still voice beneath the noise, the one that whispers, "You are enough, you have always been enough, you could never be anything else." So walk your path not with fear of failure, but with reverence for every step. Speak not to be right, but to be real. Love not to be loved in return, but because love is what you are. And when the world tells you to be small, to be careful, to wait your turn, smile softly, and walk forward anyway. Not with defiance, but with knowing. Knowing that your very being is a prayer. Knowing that your presence is a gift. Knowing that the divine moves through you with every breath. You do not need to prove your light. You only need to stop hiding it. You do not need to seek permission to shine. You only need to remember that you were born to do so. And if you fall, let it be into grace. If you stumble, let it be into deeper truth. If you weep, let it be the weeping of a soul finally allowed to feel. This is the invitation. To live not cautiously but consciously. To walk not in fear but in faith. To breathe not as a task but as a sacred act of becoming. You are not the roles you play. You are not the fears you carry. You are the awareness that watches it all with love. You are the silence that remains when the noise fades. You are the presence that holds the storm without becoming it. Live as if you cannot fail, because when you align with your truth, failure loses all meaning. There is only learning. There is only deepening. There is only returning. And the deeper you return, the wider you expand. Until your life is no longer about arriving somewhere, but about becoming someone. Someone who has remembered, against all odds, the truth that was never lost. ChatGPT danoi. And so you begin to realize that courage is not the absence of trembling. It is the willingness to tremble and still move forward with your heart open. True power is not found in domination or certainty, but in the gentle strength to remain tender in a world that tries to harden you. To live as if you cannot fail is to lay down the armor you were taught to wear and to meet life, not with resistance, but with surrender. Not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of giving in to the pull of the soul, to the whisper of intuition, to the deep river of purpose flowing beneath all things. When you stop seeking to predict every step, life begins to reveal its own intelligence. Like a symphony unfolding note by note, your path becomes music played not from sheet, but from spirit. You walk not with rehearsed movements, but with grace that is born of trust. You stop negotiating with life. You stop bargaining with your destiny. You begin to dance with the unfolding, unafraid of wrong notes, because you have remembered that even in discord, the divine composes beauty. Let yourself be surprised. Let yourself be undone. Let yourself be rewritten by the moments you did not expect. Because sometimes the soul finds its voice in the ruins. Sometimes it is in the unraveling that we come to see what is real. Do not fear the mess of transformation. Do not avoid the sacred disarray that comes when you choose truth over comfort. The soil must break for the seed to grow. The shell must crack for the bird to fly. And you, yes, you must be willing to lose the life you plan to make space for the life that is waiting. To live as if you cannot fail is to hold your dreams with open hands. To love without guarantees, to give without keeping score. It is to speak the words that tremble on your lips because they come from the deepest part of you. It is to show up not as a version of yourself you think others will accept, but as the self that no longer needs to be edited. You become a living prayer, not by reciting sacred verses, but by being sacred presence. And in this presence, you begin to see the divine in everything. In the laughter of children, in the aching of grief, in the quiet moments between your breath. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random. Even your delays, your detours, your disappointments, each has been perfectly placed to bring you closer to yourself. The soul does not speak in straight lines, it speaks in spirals, in seasons, in symbols that require stillness to decode. So pause, let the noise fall away, let the opinions drift like leaves on a stream. Your truth does not need to be defended, it only needs to be lived. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to embody it so completely that even your silence becomes a declaration. This is the invitation not to rise above your humanity, but to let the divine shine through it. Not to transcend life, but to infuse it with the sacred. To touch the mundane with reverence. To greet each moment not as an obstacle to overcome, but as a doorway into deeper awareness. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a soul to be felt. And the more you feel, the more alive you become. The more alive you become, the more life meets you in truth. The universe responds not to your words, but to your vibration. Not to your plans, but to your presence. And when you live as if you cannot fail, your presence becomes permission for others to rise, to remember, to return. Not to the version of themselves they were told to be, but to the version they were born to embody. So breathe, not as a reflex, but as a choice. With every inhale, let go of the past. With every exhale, step into the now. You are not your history. You are not your future. You are this sacred breath, this holy now, this miracle unfolding in motion. And this moment, yes, this very moment, is the perfect place to begin again. Let the stillness of this moment wrap around you like a sacred shawl woven from the threads of eternity, because in this space, beyond striving, beyond noise, you meet the one who never left. The one who has watched every chapter of your life unfold, not with judgment, but with awe. The presence within you that has never doubted your wholeness even when you did. That held you gently while you ran. That whispered softly while you screamed. That loved you without condition even when you forgot how to love yourself. There is nothing you need to become to be worthy of that presence. There is no achievement, no recognition, no mountain climb that can add to what you already are. You cannot earn what has always been yours. You cannot lose what is eternal. When you live as if you cannot fail, you are not declaring perfection. You are declaring allegiance to your essence, to the part of you that sees no mistakes, only momentum, no shame, only unfolding, no end, only another doorway into deeper knowing. Do you see it now? That the life you thought was holding you back was actually shaping you into something you could not yet imagine. That the delays were lessons, that the heartbreaks were awakenings, that even the silence was speaking if only you had slowed down enough to hear it. Every tear shed in solitude watered the garden of your becoming. Every moment you thought was the end was simply an invitation to rise in a way you hadn't before. And so you rise not by force, not by willpower, but by surrendering the illusion that you were ever broken. You rise because the truth can no longer stay buried beneath layers of doubt. You rise because the light in you is too fierce, too sacred, too needed to remain dimmed by the world's expectations. You rise like the sun, effortless, unapologetic, inevitable. This is not about confidence, it's about clarity. Clarity that your life is not an accident, that your dreams were planted in your soul by a source that does not make mistakes, that the longing you feel is not weakness, but direction. That every time your heart aches for more, it is not because something is missing, but because something is awakening. Do not be afraid of that ache. Let it stretch you. Let it pull you beyond what is comfortable. Let it tear down the walls of limitation you've built from years of listening to voices that were not your own. The ache is the echo of your infinite self, reminding you that you were not born to play small. You were born to embody light, to speak with thunder in your silence, to walk like you remember that the entire universe exists not just around you, but within you. And in this remembering, everything softens: the need to prove, the urge to perform, the exhaustion of pretending. You begin to realize that your soul was never asking for perfection, it was asking for presence, to be felt, to be lived, to be trusted. You stop waiting for a sign because you become the sign. You stop seeking validation because you realize that truth does not require consensus, it requires embodiment. So let this life be your canvas and let love be your brush. Not the kind of love the world markets to you, but the kind that is unconditional, unending, unshakable. The love that says you are allowed to take up space. The love that knows how to hold both grief and gratitude in the same breath. The love that doesn't seek to fix the wound, but to sit with it, cradle it, bless it. And yes, this path will not always feel easy, but easy is not the point. Truth is, wholeness is, freedom is. And when you live as if you cannot fail, even your hardest days are no longer burdens. They are sacred thresholds, gateways into deeper light, opportunities to embody the very faith you claim to believe in. Because faith is not just believing when it's convenient. It's knowing when there's no evidence. It's trusting the wind even when the sails are torn. It's standing in the dark and still whispering, I am light. That is the power of the soul. That is the power of living, as if you cannot fail, not because failure won't visit you, but because it can never define you. You begin to speak with the authority of someone who has remembered. You begin to create not for approval, but because the creation itself is your prayer. You begin to show up not in spite of your flaws, but because your flaws are sacred vessels through which others recognize themselves and feel less alone. You become a living mirror, reflecting to others the truth they've buried beneath years of pretending. And there is no force more healing than that. So walk, beloved soul, with reverence. Let your life become your testimony. Let your authenticity become your offering. Let your light, unpolished, unfiltered, undeniable, be the invitation that reminds the world. You can fall, you can break, you can weep, and still you are not failing. You are unfolding. And the unfolding, my dear, is holy. And now, as you find yourself here in this breath, in this moment, you are standing not at the end, but at a sacred beginning. Not the beginning of something outside of you, but the dawning of your own remembrance. A gentle return to the truth that never left, only waited. weighted beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the endless reaching for a life you are always already living. There is no next level to attain, no higher self to unlock, only deeper presence, only fuller embodiment, only the quiet, unwavering truth that you have always been enough, that your worth is not in question, that your presence is the miracle the world has been aching for, that the breath you carry is the echo of something eternal flowing through you in perfect rhythm with the stars, with the tide, with the turning of all things. You need not run anymore. You need not apologize for the light you carry, nor diminish the radiance of your becoming to fit into a world still learning to see clearly. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to be a reminder, a flicker of God's breath in human form, a soul willing to live wide open in a world still healing from the illusion of separation. And so you live not cautiously, not conditionally, but with the sacred abandon of one who has tasted freedom. You smile without needing a reason. You speak not to be heard, but because truth must flow. You move not to chase approval, but to express the quiet ecstasy of being alive. You cry when the soul breaks open, and you bless the tears as rivers of renewal. You laugh when the joy returns like a long-lost friend, and you do not question its timing. You trust the mystery. You let the unknown cradle you. You bow to the unfolding. This is the essence of living as if you cannot fail, not as a strategy to succeed, but as a devotion to truth, a vow to stay loyal to your soul, even when the world asks you to trade it for security, even when fear arrives dressed as logic, even when doubt comes wearing the voice of your past. You look them in the eye and say, I remember now. And the remembering is enough to unshackle you from lifetimes of forgetting. No longer will you measure your worth by the outcomes of your efforts. No longer will you shrink yourself to soothe the discomfort of those still afraid of their own light. No longer will you wait for permission to begin. This is your life. This is your soul's canvas. And you are here not to repeat, not to rehearse, but to reveal the vastness that pulses beneath your skin, to reveal the divinity that dances in your breath, to reveal the stillness that sings in your heart, even when the world grows loud. So let them call you dreamer. Let them call you strange. Let them call you too much, too tender, too idealistic. You know now that those are the echoes of a world still learning to feel, still learning to heal, still learning to trust what cannot be explained, but only experienced. And you are no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You have become fluent in the language of the unseen. You know that the real alchemy happens in silence and surrender, in the subtle choices to keep showing up with your soul intact. You no longer need to defend the fire within you. You only need to tend it, to let it warm those who are ready, to let it light the path for those still walking in shadow. Live as if you cannot fail, and you will find that life opens in ways you never could have scripted. Doors will appear where before there were only walls. People will arrive, not to fix you, but to meet you at your frequency. Love will find you not as a reward, but as a reflection. And the dreams that once felt distant will begin to move towards you, drawn not by effort, but by your resonance with truth. This is the quiet revolution, not loud, not forced, but undeniable. You are the revolution. You are the presence that heals. You are the light that never needed permission to shine. You are not here to convince. You are here to be. And being is everything. So walk on now with the rhythm of the infinite in your steps, with your shoulders light and your heart unguarded, with your spirit bowed in reverence to the sacred pulse that guides all things. You have remembered what can never be forgotten again. You are free. You are whole. You are home. And you cannot fail. If you're hearing these words now, perhaps it's because some whisper in your heart, some gentle tug in the soul brought you here. Maybe it was longing for change. Maybe it was the search for meaning. Maybe, just maybe, it's the mysterious choreography of a universe that arranges every meeting, every message with perfect timing, whether we recognize it or not. I invite you to breathe in deeply. Feel your chest rise and fall. Notice for a moment the miracle of your own presence. You, right now, are alive in this very moment, and that is not a random accident. The place you stand, the hopes you carry, the pain you bear, and the dreams that live quietly in the back of your mind, these are not mistakes. They are invitations. Invitations to remember who you are, why you are here, and to realign your steps with the deepest desires of your spirit. Let's begin with a question that has echoed through the ages from the ancient mystics of India to the philosophers of Greece, from the desert prophets to the poets who write with tears and wonder, who are you, really? Are you the sum of your routines, the mask you wear for others, the scars of your past, or the voice of your doubts? Are you the face in the mirror or the presence that observes it? If you look beyond the labels, beyond the roles, mother, father, child, employee, citizen, success, failure, what remains? There is a quiet place beyond thought, beyond fear, where you are not just a name or a body, but a living soul, timeless, infinite, a unique spark of the divine. And what is desire? For so many, desire is misunderstood. We're taught to be ashamed of it, to chase it compulsively, or repress it entirely, to believe that wanting is a flaw, or that fulfillment is reserved for a chosen few. But what if desire, your true desire, is not the enemy of your spiritual path, but the voice of your soul calling you home? What if the longing in your heart is the echo of God's own longing for you to awaken, to remember your power, to participate in the act of creation, and to express the fullness of your being here and now? What if, as Rumi said, what you seek is seeking you? What if you are the vessel through which the universe experiences itself, yearning, discovering, expanding? So, why do our actions so often betray our desires? Why do we wake up each morning with a silent ache, a list of dreams quietly fading, a sense that life is passing by like water through cupped hands? Why do we say we want peace, but rehearse old resentments? Why do we wish for love, but hide behind walls of cynicism or fear? Why do we pray for abundance, but act from scarcity? Why do we long for health, but neglect the body that serves us? It's as if a fog has settled between what our hearts know and how our lives unfold. And yet, beneath all confusion, a simple truth abides. To live the life you desire, your actions must sing in harmony with your deepest longing. Alignment is not a moral rule, it is a spiritual law, as true as gravity and as beautiful as sunrise. When you act in harmony with your soul's calling, life flows. When you betray yourself by acting out of fear, guilt, or unworthiness, suffering emerges. To align your actions with your desires is to become whole. It is to bring the scattered fragments of your life back into the embrace of your own awareness. It is to say, I choose to live, not just to survive. I choose to love, not just to be loved. I choose to honor what is true within me, even if the world misunderstands, even if it is inconvenient, even if it is terrifying. This is the journey. And this journey begins, as all spiritual awakenings do, with an act of deep and radical honesty. The willingness to see yourself not as you have been told, not as you pretend to be, but as you are. Close your eyes now. Picture a river winding its way through a valley. Imagine the current, how it moves with certainty, carving stone, nourishing life, undeterred by the obstacles in its path. Now imagine trying to force that river to flow backward against its own nature. It's impossible. The river suffers when blocked, when channeled against its will. So do you. You are not here to be a dammed up stream, but a living, flowing expression of the divine current within. Your desires are not meant to be shamed or denied. They are meant to be understood, refined, and followed with the courage of a river that remembers its source. Perhaps you've been told that wanting is selfish, that to desire is to be materialistic or vain. But listen deeply. There is a vast difference between the ego's cravings and the soul's yearning. The ego wants to possess, to control, to be seen and applauded, to conquer and consume. The soul, however, longs to create, to connect, to experience, to serve, to love. The ego says, when I have more, I will be happy. The soul says, when I am aligned with my purpose, I am whole. The world is full of people running after what they don't truly want, mistaking applause for joy, power for peace, accumulation for fulfillment. The wise understand that real alignment is an inside job. Let us reflect then on what you truly desire. Not what you've been told to want, not what you think you should want. Not what your parents, your teachers, your culture, your fears have convinced you is necessary for happiness. But what your heart aches for in moments of stillness, in the dark hours before dawn when no one else is watching. Is it peace? Is it love? Is it meaning? Is it freedom? Is it the joy of expressing your gifts, of healing your wounds, of touching another soul with kindness? Whatever it is, know this. Your soul would not give you a longing it was incapable of fulfilling. Desire is the language of the divine, and when you listen with courage, miracles happen. The first step is to come home to yourself, to lay down the weapons of self-judgment, of guilt and comparison, and to accept with humility and gratitude the astonishing fact that you are alive. Your life is not a mistake. The circumstances of your birth, the shape of your body, the color of your skin, the wounds you carry, the gifts you bear, these are not accidents, but ingredients in the alchemy of your becoming. If you want to align your actions with your desires, you must first accept the invitation to befriend yourself. Can you look at your own heart with the tenderness you would offer a frightened child? Can you forgive yourself for the times you acted out of fear, ignorance, or pain? Can you bless your past not because it was perfect, but because it brought you here to this holy moment of possibility? This is the path of awakening, not the path of perfection, but the path of presence. Each time you return to yourself, you step out of the prison of the past and the anxiety of the future. You become available to life as it is, not as you wish it would be, not as you fear it might become, but as it is. This presence is the gateway to transformation. It is the soil in which new seeds can be planted, the silence in which a new song can be heard. Ask yourself quietly and honestly, where in my life are my actions out of alignment with my desires? Where do I say one thing and do another? Where do I wish for healing but act out of old wounds? Where do I dream of connection but hide behind armor? Where do I yearn for abundance but act from a mentality of lack? There is no shame in this questioning. It is the beginning of wisdom. To see clearly is to begin the process of realignment. Forgive yourself for the years you spent asleep, for the times you betrayed your own heart out of fear, for the habits you developed to survive. Every human being learns at some point the pain of living out of sync with their own soul. But what matters now is not what you did, but what you choose. The past is gone. The future is a dream. The only place you can act, the only place you can love, the only place you can heal is here in this breath, in this moment. And in this moment, everything can change. Imagine now a tree standing tall in the center of a wide field. Its roots dig deep into the nourishing earth. Its branches reach for the sky. The tree does not apologize for its strength or its beauty. It does not compare itself to the other trees. It simply grows, aligned with its nature, expressing the fullness of what it is. The same life that animates the tree animates you. The same intelligence that guides the turning of the stars guides your heart. There is nothing missing in you. There is nothing broken. You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to realize it, to embody it, to live in alignment with the truth of your being. But what then does it mean to act in alignment with your desires? It means to make choices, however small, that honor what you know to be true. It means to say yes to what lights you up and no to what drains you. It means to be courageous enough to disappoint others if it means being true to yourself. It means to speak with your own voice, even when it trembles. It means to listen to the wisdom of your body, the knowing in your gut, the whisper of intuition that is the voice of your soul. It means to stop waiting for permission, for guarantees, for applause, and to step forward in faith, knowing that life supports those who have the courage to be real. To act in alignment is not always easy. The world will tempt you to conform, to betray your heart for the comfort of belonging, to sacrifice authenticity for approval. There will be days when fear is loud, when the path ahead is uncertain, when old patterns rise up like storms in the night. But every time you choose truth over comfort, love over fear, faith over doubt, you strengthen the muscles of your soul. Every time you forgive, you release yourself from the prison of resentment. Every time you bless what you have, you invite more to flow into your life. Every time you act with integrity, even when no one is watching, you become an instrument of grace in the world. So let's begin again. With each breath, let's return to the center. Let's become students of our own desire, listeners at the door of the heart. Let's be willing to question our assumptions, to challenge our limiting beliefs, to release the stories that have kept us small. You are not your past. You are not your wounds. You are not your failures or your successes. You are not even your thoughts. You are the witness, the presence, the awareness in which all things arise and pass away. The more you remember this, the more your actions will naturally align with the deepest longing of your soul. Let us turn now to the power of intention. Intention is not mere wishing. It is not idle hoping. Intention is the force that organizes energy, that calls forth opportunity, that invites synchronicity into your life. When your intention is clear, when your desire is sincere, and when your actions are consistent with both, you become magnetic. People, events, resources, even apparent coincidences begin to organize themselves around you. This is not magic, it is the natural consequence of alignment. The universe, after all, is not random. It is an intricate web of relationships, a dance of energies, a field of infinite possibility. When you show up in truth, life responds. So, set your intention now, not as a demand, but as an offering, not as a desperate plea, but as a quiet declaration of your willingness to participate in the miracle of creation. Say to yourself, I am ready to live in alignment. I am willing to release what no longer serves me. I am open to guidance, to healing, to growth. I am here, now, present and available to the life that wants to be lived through me. And then, with each step you take, ask, does this action honor my desire? Does this thought support my intention? Does this relationship nourish my soul? There will be times when the answer is no. When you slip into old habits, when fear returns, when doubt whispers that you are not enough, let these moments be teachers, not tyrants. Let them remind you that you are a work in progress, that the path is not linear, that grace is available in every moment. If you fall, get up. If you forget, remember. If you lose your way, pause and listen. The soul always knows the way home. And let us remember, alignment is not about perfection. It is about honesty, humility, and willingness. It is about showing up again and again with an open heart. It is about forgiving yourself for being human, for learning slowly, for stumbling along the way. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Like learning to play an instrument, alignment is a matter of attunement, of listening deeply, of correcting your course with gentleness and grace. See yourself now as a garden. Within you, countless seeds lie, dormant seeds of kindness, creativity, courage, joy, compassion, wisdom. Some have begun to sprout, others wait for the light of your attention, the water of your love. What seeds are you watering each day with your thoughts, your words, your actions? Are you feeding the weeds of doubt and resentment, or the flowers of hope and gratitude? You have the power to choose. Every moment is an opportunity to begin again. Let's speak for a moment about the voice of the ego. The ego is not your enemy, but a misunderstood friend. It developed to protect you, to help you navigate a world that can be harsh and unpredictable. But the ego is limited. It lives in fear. It believes in separation. It is obsessed with survival. It is the voice that tells you to stay small, to hide, to hoard, to defend. It fears loss, so it resists change. It fears vulnerability, so it wears masks. But you are not the ego. You are the awareness that notices the ego's voice. You are the stillness beneath the noise. When you align your actions with your desires, you step out of the prison of ego and into the freedom of soul. This freedom is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of love. It is the willingness to meet life as it is, to embrace both joy and sorrow, gain and loss, knowing that all things pass and that you remain. The soul is not afraid of change because it knows itself to be eternal. The soul is not afraid of pain because it knows that pain is a teacher, a portal, an invitation to deeper compassion. The soul is not afraid of death because it knows that life is a continuum, that endings are beginnings, that nothing real can be lost. So, how do you live this truth in the world? How do you align your actions with your desires day by day, moment by moment? It begins with awareness. Before you act, pause. Before you speak, listen. Before you judge, inquire. Before you react, breathe. In the space between stimulus and response lies your freedom. In that space, you can choose. Will you act from habit or from presence? From fear or from love? From ego or from soul? Practice then the art of conscious living. Make your life a meditation. Let your relationships become classrooms. Your challenges become teachers. Your work become a sacred offering. When you notice yourself slipping into old patterns, do not condemn yourself. Smile and return to your center. Realignment is always possible. There is no moment in which grace is not available. There is no wound that cannot be healed. There is no dream that cannot be realized when you act in harmony with your soul. Imagine for a moment a world in which every person lives in alignment with their deepest desires. Imagine a world where love is the motive, where creativity is honored, where compassion is the norm, where peace is valued above profit, where diversity is celebrated as the expression of infinite intelligence. This world is not a fantasy, it is a possibility, a potential that exists in the quantum field of now, but it begins with you. It begins with the willingness to be the change you wish to see, to embody the qualities you admire, to live as if your life matters, because it does. Let us remember, too, the power of surrender. Alignment is not about force or willpower. It is about trust. Trusting that the universe is benevolent, that life supports your growth, that your desires are holy, that you are guided even when you feel lost. Surrender does not mean giving up, it means giving over. Giving over your fears, your doubts, your limited stories to the wisdom of your higher self. It means allowing life to move through you, to surprise you, to lead you beyond the boundaries of what you thought possible. There is a beautiful paradox here. The more you surrender, the more empowered you become. The more you let go of control, the more you discover your true power. The more you release attachment to outcomes, the more you enjoy the journey. The more you trust the process, the more miraculous your life becomes. So, if you find yourself struggling, if you feel out of alignment, remember this: you are not alone. Every human being walks this path. Every saint, every sage, every teacher, every seeker has known the pain of disconnection and the joy of return. You are part of a vast family of souls, each learning, each growing, each remembering the truth of their being. Let that comfort you. Let it inspire you to be gentle with yourself, to persevere, to trust the process. And as you move forward, keep asking, what would love do here? What would wisdom choose? What does my soul desire? And then have the courage to act. Small steps taken in faith become great journeys. Simple acts of kindness offered without expectation change the world. Honest words spoken from the heart heal old wounds. Creative risks taken in spite of fear open new doors. Life is not a rehearsal. It is happening now. Your time is precious. Your presence is needed. You are the author of your destiny. You are the artist of your own becoming. You are the instrument through which the universe expresses itself. Do not waste another moment betraying your own heart. Do not squander another day living someone else's dream. Do not postpone your joy, your healing, your contribution. The world needs you, your gifts, your vision, your love. Remember, too, that alignment is not a destination, but a practice. Each day offers new opportunities to return, to realign, to begin again. Some days will be easy, others will challenge you to your core. Trust that both are necessary. Trust that you are being shaped, refined, prepared for greater things. Trust that every experience, every encounter, every challenge is part of the unfolding of your unique destiny. Let your actions reflect your desire. Let your words reflect your truth. Let your choices reflect your wisdom. Let your life reflect your soul. And when you forget, as you inevitably will, remember that grace is always waiting, that forgiveness is always possible, that love is always here. You are not here by accident. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are a miracle, a mystery, a masterpiece in progress. Your desires are sacred. Your actions are powerful. Your life is a gift. Align with that truth, and the world will change before your eyes. As you rise from this moment, as you step back into the rhythm of your life, carry with you the awareness that you are the bridge between heaven and earth, the meeting place of body and spirit, the song of the universe made flesh. Walk gently, speak kindly, love boldly, live fully. You are enough. You are worthy. You are divine. And so it is. Let the stillness of this moment linger just a little longer. You are here not in the realm of ideas alone, but in the sacred arena where spirit whispers to matter and intention quietly shapes reality. Notice as your breath moves in and out how the body responds to the invitation of presence, muscles unclenching, heart beating softer, awareness blooming like a sunrise across the horizon of your inner landscape. Feel that. That is you coming home. In this sacred space, the boundaries between what you long for and who you are begin to dissolve. The illusion that your dreams live outside you, forever waiting in a distant future, quietly falls away. What if the fulfillment you seek is already woven into your being, waiting not to be acquired, but to be unveiled by your willingness to participate? What if every step you take toward your soul's calling is not a quest for something new, but a remembering of something ancient, something that in truth never left you? The world will often tell you to look outward for answers, to collect more knowledge, more experiences, more proofs of your worthiness. But the great paradox, the spiritual secret hidden in plain sight, is this: it is not the accumulation of more, but the revelation of what already is that brings you peace. The highest wisdom is not found in the distant stars, but in the quiet knowing at the center of your own being. You do not need to become more than you are. You need only to become more aware of what you already contain. Consider the ocean for a moment, its vastness, its power, its endless movement. The surface may be tossed by storms, but deep below, there is a silence that is never disturbed. Your mind, like the surface, is prone to waves, to turbulence, to restlessness. But beneath the commotion of thought, the soul remains undisturbed, deep, infinite, ever-present. Every action aligned with desire draws from this deep well, not from the shifting winds of circumstance or opinion. To live in alignment is to anchor yourself in the calm depth beneath the chaos of the surface. Now, listen for the voice of intuition, soft, steady, and honest, often drowned out by the louder voices of fear or reason. Intuition does not shout. It nudges, whispers, sometimes just a sensation, a subtle knowing in the gut, a feeling in the chest, a gentle insistence that something is right or not yet true. Do not dismiss this voice. It is your personal lighthouse, guiding you through the fog when logic and analysis fail to illuminate the path. When you align your actions with your soul's quiet guidance, life's obstacles transform. You cease to stumble blindly. You begin to move with the certainty of one who is guided by a wisdom greater than intellect alone. The challenge then is not to find your purpose, but to listen deeply enough that it reveals itself in your willingness to be present. Purpose is not something you invent. It is something you recognize, like a melody you suddenly remember from a long-forgotten dream. The more you clear away the noise of expectation and the weight of past disappointment, the more easily the song of your life comes through. Alignment is the courage to dance to your own melody, even when the world asks you to march to a different beat. Healing, too, begins in this alignment. Most of our suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from the resistance we hold, the way we wrestle against what is, the way we betray our own needs in the hope of pleasing others or avoiding pain. When you honor your true desires, you become a friend to yourself. You cease to abandon yourself in small ways, saying yes when you mean no, pretending not to care when your soul aches for connection, silencing your gifts for fear of rejection. Each time you choose self-honesty, you restore a lost part of your being. You grow whole not by addition, but by integration. Let us ponder the simple, radical idea that happiness is not a reward for virtuous living, but the natural fragrance of a life lived in harmony. Like flowers opening to the morning sun, joy arises effortlessly when you stop fighting yourself. There is nothing to earn, nothing to chase, only the grace of meeting yourself where you are and allowing life to flow through you, unimpeded by self-judgment or regret. To align your actions with your desires is to allow happiness to happen, to stop resisting, and to trust the wisdom of your own becoming. Notice how even your challenges, your so-called failures, are not the enemies you once thought. Every difficulty points you back to the places you have yet to love, the desires you have not yet honored, the truths you are still afraid to claim. When you welcome every experience as a messenger, life becomes your ally. The winds of adversity, instead of blowing you off course, fill your sails and carry you onward, deeper into your own authenticity. Now, let us speak of courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward in spite of it. To act in alignment is to risk the comfort of the familiar, to step beyond the walls of old stories and dare to imagine a new way of being. Every soul knows this threshold, the edge between what is safe and what is possible. It is here, in the trembling space of uncertainty, that you meet your own divinity. Each act of courage, however small, is a declaration that your desires matter, that your life is worthy of your own trust. When you choose authenticity over approval, truth over convenience, you plant the seeds of a life that is truly yours. Trust, too, is a form of alignment. Trust in the process, trust in your own journey, trust that the path is unfolding in ways you may not yet see. The mind wants certainty, but the soul thrives in mystery. Sometimes what you call delay is divine timing. Sometimes what you call failure is redirection. Sometimes what you call loss is space being made for something greater to emerge. The wisdom traditions remind us the universe is not against you, it is conspiring in your favor. If only you will let go of how you think things should be. Let yourself become comfortable with not knowing. Let wonder be your companion. Every day, greet the unknown, not with dread, but with a sense of adventure. The unknown is not emptiness, it is the field of all possibilities. And surrendering to what you cannot predict, you create room for grace, for serendipity, for the gentle interventions of a benevolent universe that loves you far more than you yet realize. And always, let love be your compass. Love, not as a sentiment, but as a choice, as a discipline, as a creative force that shapes worlds. When you act from love, love for yourself, love for others, love for the moment at hand, your actions are imbued with power. Love dissolves the walls of separation. Love releases you from the tyranny of old wounds. Love transforms your desires into blessings not only for yourself, but for everyone your life touches. The smallest act done with love becomes a prayer. The simplest gesture offered with sincerity changes the world. So, I ask you, how will you honor your desires today? What small act of alignment can you offer the world? What truth longs to be spoken? What gift waits to be given? The answer need not be grand, it need only be real. One honest word, one act of forgiveness, one moment of stillness, these are the steps that build a life of meaning. Remember, alignment is not a static state, but a living, breathing dance. You will fall out of step, and that is okay. Each misstep is an invitation to return, to remember, to recommit. Life is generous in its invitations. The path home is never closed. All that is required is your willingness to say yes again and again to the truth that calls you forward. Let gratitude be the ground you walk upon. Each day find something to praise the resilience of your own heart, the kindness of a stranger, the miracle of breath, the beauty of a sky painted with dawn. Gratitude roots you in the present and transforms even the ordinary into the sacred. When you act from gratitude, you amplify the goodness in your life. The more you give thanks, the more you see to be thankful for. This is not wishful thinking, it is spiritual physics. Where attention goes, energy flows. Where gratitude lives, abundance gathers. And so, let your life become a living affirmation. Let your every action declare, I am here, I am awake, I am willing to participate in the miracle of existence. Let your choices whisper to the universe, I trust, I listen, I follow the guidance of my soul. Let your presence remind the world of what is possible when a human being lives in alignment with the sacred fire within. As you continue your journey, know this, the power to transform your life is not hidden in some distant future or outside yourself. It is here in this very breath, in the clarity of your intention, in the honesty of your action. You are the place where heaven touches earth. You are the prayer, the answer, the miracle in motion. Step forward. Align your actions with your desires. The world awaits the music only you can play. And as the final notes of this gentle conversation with your soul begin to fade, let a quiet knowing settle within you. You are not the seeker lost in darkness. You are the lamp itself, quietly lighting the way home. Every breath is an act of grace. Every desire, when honored, is a thread woven into the tapestry of your becoming. There is nothing you must prove, nowhere else you must arrive, no one else you need to be. The universe is whispering, simply be. Be the presence that listens, the spirit that loves, the heart that forgives, the hands that give, the dreamer who acts. Walk gently now, with trust in your footsteps, and know that you are already enough. Let your actions arise as the natural expression of your deepest desire, effortless, unforced, like flowers opening to the morning Sunday. The river of your life flows toward fulfillment, not by struggle, but by surrendering to the truth that you are divine. Step into this day as the miracle that you are. Choose to align and watch the whole universe move with you, lovingly, endlessly, now.
Take a breath with me now. Not the hurried breath that belongs to striving, but the soft breath that belongs to remembering. Feel the air arrive without effort. Notice how it does not ask permission to enter your body, and yet it nourishes every cell the moment it does. This is how life works when you stop interfering with it. This is how creation responds when you relax your grip on fear and return to trust. You were not designed to strain your way into fulfillment. You were designed to allow it. Relaxing is not quitting. Trusting is not waiting helplessly. Expecting is not wishing. These are acts of alignment. They are decisions to step out of the illusion that you must push the universe into cooperation. When you relax, you are saying, I know who I am. When you trust, you are saying, I know the nature of life. When you expect, you are saying, I accept the truth that what I seek is already seeking me. And so often the mind tells you that calm is dangerous, that vigilance is wisdom, that worry is preparation. But worry is simply the ego rehearsing a future it cannot control. Anxiety is the mind pretending it is responsible for outcomes that belong to something far greater. When you relax, you are not neglecting your life. You are returning it to its rightful manager. You are stepping back into harmony with the intelligence that beats your heart and moves the stars without strain. Consider how a seed becomes a tree. It does not panic underground. It does not compare itself to other seeds. It does not pull on its roots and demand sunlight. It rests in the certainty of its nature, and in that resting, everything required arrives. The soil cooperates. The rain finds it. The sun warms it. This is not passivity. This is alignment. The seed's only responsibility is to be what it already is. Your life works the same way. When you ask for love, peace, abundance, or healing, the asking is not the hard part. The hard part is getting out of the way afterward. The ego wants proof. It wants timelines. It wants guarantees. It wants to supervise the universe as if the universe were confused. But the soul knows something the ego never learns. Once you have asked from a place of clarity, it is already set in motion. Expectation is not impatience. Expectation is a calm certainty that says, of course it is coming. Of course it is unfolding. Of course it is aligning. You do not expect the sun to rise with clenched fists. You do not watch the clock all night fearing it might forget. You rest and the morning arrives. That is faith. That is trust. That is the energy that moves things into form. When you expect something is already done, your body changes. Your breathing slows. Your shoulders soften. Your thoughts stop racing ahead to worst-case scenarios. And in that softened state, you become magnetic. Life responds not to desperation, but to resonance. The universe does not reward anxiety, it reflects it. It does not respond to pleading, it responds to knowing. This is why calm expectation is so powerful. It tells life, I am aligned with the outcome, not attached to the struggle. It tells your subconscious there is no emergency, and when there is no emergency, creativity awakens. Insight flows. Opportunities reveal themselves quietly, often in ways you could never have planned. You may have been taught that patience means waiting without movement, that faith means hoping despite doubt, but true patience is inner stillness while life rearranges itself on your behalf. True faith is not belief in spite of fear, it is the absence of fear altogether. It is the quiet confidence that the same intelligence that created you is coordinating the details of your becoming. Notice how tension leaves your body when you stop demanding outcomes. Notice how clarity replaces force. Notice how life begins to feel cooperative instead of adversarial. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. The moment you release the need to control the how, the universe is free to deliver the what. There is a subtle arrogance hidden inside anxiety. It whispers, if I don't worry, nothing will happen. But the truth is that worry blocks the very flow you seek. It is like gripping a rope so tightly that your hands cramp, then wondering why you cannot climb. Relaxing your grip does not make you fall. It allows movement. The same is true with time. Expect it the same day does not mean demanding a clock-based miracle. It means aligning with the now, where all creation occurs. The future is imagined. The past is remembered. But the now is where life answers. When you expect now, you step into the only moment with power. You stop postponing joy, peace, and gratitude for a future that never arrives because it is always later. Gratitude is expectation in disguise. When you feel thankful before evidence appears, you are not pretending, you are aligning. You are tuning your inner frequency to the reality you desire. This is why gratitude feels expansive. It relaxes the nervous system. It tells the mind, we are safe. And safety is the soil in which miracles grow. Your desires are not random, they are invitations. They arise from the same source that fulfills them. You do not long for what is impossible. You long for what is already encoded in your path. When you trust this, desire stops feeling like lack and starts feeling like guidance. It becomes a compass instead of a complaint. There is nothing noble about struggle for its own sake. Growth does not require suffering. Suffering is simply resistance to what is. When you stop arguing with reality, you reclaim enormous energy. That energy becomes intuition, inspiration, and ease. You begin to notice that life responds faster when you stop chasing it. The ego believes it must hurry because it believes time is running out. The soul knows that everything unfolds in perfect sequence. When you identify with the soul, urgency dissolves. You still act, but your actions are guided, not frantic. You still move, but your movement is graceful, not forced. Imagine what would change if you treated your desires as inevitable instead of uncertain. How would you speak? How would you walk? How would you breathe? Expectation reshapes identity. You begin to live as the person who trusts, not the person who waits. And life responds accordingly. Healing works this way too. When you stop fighting your body and start listening, it remembers how to restore itself. When you relax around pain, tension releases its grip. The body is not your enemy. It is responding to the stories you tell it. Calm expectation tells every cell we are moving toward wholeness. Love responds the same way. When you stop grasping, love flows. When you stop demanding proof, connection deepens. Love does not arrive through force. It arrives through openness. And openness is born of trust. Abundance, too, moves toward those who are not clenched around lack. Money, opportunities, support, they are forms of energy, and energy flows where there is ease. When you expect abundance without desperation, you align with its nature. You stop pushing against invisible walls and start walking through open doors. You are not here to convince life to cooperate. You are here to cooperate with life. Relaxing is your agreement with reality. Trusting is your recognition of a higher order. Expecting is your declaration that you know how this story works. And the story works in your favor, not because you deserve special treatment, but because you are an expression of the same intelligence that animates everything. There is no separation. There is no outside force withholding from you. There is only alignment or resistance. When resistance falls away, time compresses. Things that seem delayed suddenly arrive. Conversations happen, messages appear, circumstances shift. Not because you forced them, but because you stopped blocking them. So breathe again. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders drop. Let the mind rest from its endless calculations. You have already done enough. You have already asked. Now allow. Expectation does not shout. It whispers. It sits quietly and knows. It does not watch the door anxiously. It sets the table calmly. It does not beg. It welcomes. It does not doubt. It remembers. Remember who you are. You are not a fragment struggling to survive in a hostile world. You are a divine participant in a benevolent process. You are not waiting for permission to receive. You are learning how to receive without interference. Today is not a test of patience. It is an invitation to trust. This moment is not empty. It is pregnant with possibility. Relax into it, trust it, expect it, not someday, not later, now. And as you do, notice how life begins to mirror your calm. Notice how solutions emerge without strain. Notice how the path reveals itself one gentle step at a time. This is the way it has always worked. This is the truth you are remembering. Relax and trust. Expect it the same day. The moment you align, reality follows. Stay with that quiet knowing for a moment longer, because what you are touching now is not an idea, but a state of being. This is the place beneath effort, beneath strategy, beneath the constant commentary of the mind. It is the place where your truest power has always lived. When you rest here, you begin to notice something subtle and extraordinary. Life does not need to be chased, fixed, or improved in order to support you. It has been waiting for you to stop running so it can catch up. There is a profound intelligence moving through you right now, coordinating breath, circulation, balance, and awareness without asking for instructions. That same intelligence is orchestrating meetings, openings, insights, and synchronicities far beyond the reach of conscious planning. When you trust this, you stop measuring your worth by visible progress and start recognizing the invisible alignment that always precedes manifestation. You may feel moments when doubt tries to re-enter, when the old habits of urgency knock at the door of your awareness. When that happens, do not fight them. Fighting only gives them importance. Instead, observe them the way you would observe clouds passing through the sky. They are temporary formations, not the sky itself. You are not your thoughts about timing, readiness, or deserving. You are the awareness in which those thoughts appear and dissolve. As you settle into this awareness, something remarkable occurs. Your relationship with time begins to soften. You no longer experience time as an enemy that withholds or delays. You experience it as a rhythm, a dance, a natural unfolding. You understand that what appears as waiting is often preparation occurring beneath the surface, in places you cannot yet see but will soon recognize as essential. This is why calm expectation feels expansive rather than tense. It is aligned with truth. It is rooted in the understanding that life does not make mistakes, and neither do you. Every apparent pause, every redirection, every unexpected turn has been guiding you toward a version of yourself capable of receiving what you have asked for without fear. Fulfillment is not just about arrival, it is about readiness. Notice how different this feels from forcing outcomes. Forcing tightens the body and narrows perception. Allowing opens the senses and sharpens intuition. In allowing, you become receptive to guidance that cannot reach you through stress. You hear the quieter voice that knows when to move and when to be still. You begin to act from clarity instead of compulsion. This is where inspired action emerges naturally, not from pressure, but from alignment, not from proving, but from knowing. You will find yourself drawn towards certain conversations, certain ideas, certain places, without needing to justify why. Trust these impulses. They are not random. They are responses to a deeper order rearranging itself in your favor. When you live this way, life feels less like a problem to solve and more like a mystery to participate in. Curiosity replaces fear. Wonder replaces worry. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And begin asking, what is trying to emerge through me now? That shift alone alters everything. There is great freedom in realizing that you do not need to earn what is already yours by nature. Peace is not a reward for endurance. Love is not a prize for perfection. Abundance is not compensation for suffering. These are states of alignment available the moment you release the belief that you must struggle to deserve them. And as you release that belief, your energy changes. Others feel it. Opportunities sense it. Life responds to it. You become a quiet invitation rather than a demand. You radiate trust instead of need. This is why doors open effortlessly for those who seem unbothered by outcomes. They are not indifferent, they are aligned. Let this alignment be your practice. Not something you do once, but a way of meeting each moment. When uncertainty arises, return to breath. When impatience surfaces, return to presence. When fear whispers, return to the knowing that you are guided, supported, and never alone in this unfolding. You are learning to live from the inside out, where fulfillment is not postponed and peace is not conditional. From this place, expectation becomes gentle certainty, and trust becomes a natural state rather than an effort. You no longer ask life to prove itself to you. You meet it with openness, and it meets you with grace. Remain here. Let this understanding settle into the body, the breath, the nervous system. There is nothing to rush toward and nothing to escape. Everything you seek is responding to who you are becoming in this very moment. And who you are becoming is someone who knows deeply and calmly that life is already saying yes. And as you remain in this gentle certainty, you may notice a quiet shift taking place beneath your awareness, as if something long held tightly is finally being set down. This is the moment when striving gives way to allowing, when the need to manage every outcome loosens its grip. In this space, you are not waiting for life to begin. You are already inside it, breathing with it, moving as it moves. There is a wisdom that awakens when you stop negotiating with the present moment. It whispers that this moment is not a stepping stone to something better. It is the doorway through which everything arrives. When you stop postponing your sense of well-being, the future loses its power to intimidate you. You realize that fulfillment is not ahead of you, it is aligning with you now. From this awareness, even challenges begin to look different. They no longer feel like obstacles placed in your way, but like invitations to trust more deeply. Each one asks quietly and patiently, can you remain open even here? And when you do, you discover that openness dissolves resistance faster than force ever could. What once felt heavy begins to lighten, not because it disappeared, but because you stopped carrying it alone. This is the paradox of trust. The more you release control, the more supported you feel. The less you insist, the more life responds. It is not because the world suddenly changes its rules, but because you are no longer arguing with them. You are moving with the current instead of exhausting yourself swimming upstream. As this becomes familiar, you begin to sense guidance, not as loud commands, but as gentle nudges. A feeling to pause, a feeling to speak, a feeling to let go. These impulses arise effortlessly when the mind is no longer crowded with fear-based calculations. They are subtle, but they are precise. And when you follow them, you often find that everything you need appears at just the right moment. This is how alignment expresses itself, not through dramatic declarations, but through quiet coherence. Your inner state and outer experience begin to reflect one another more faithfully. When you are calm, life feels calmer. When you are trusting, life feels trustworthy. When you expect good without urgency, goodness finds a way to meet you. You may notice that your desires themselves start to change. They become less about filling a void and more about expressing fullness. You are no longer seeking to become whole. You are seeking ways to share what is already whole within you. From this place, creation feels joyful rather than desperate, inspired rather than compulsory. There is great peace in knowing that you are not behind, not late, not missing anything essential. The idea that you must catch up dissolves when you understand that your path has always been unfolding in perfect sequence. Comparison loses its grip because you are no longer measuring your life against anyone else's timeline. You are listening to your own rhythm, and it is steady, intelligent, and kind. As you continue to relax into this rhythm, trust becomes less of a concept and more of a lived experience. You trust your breath to arrive. You trust the ground to hold you. You trust the next step to reveal itself when it is time. And in this trust, anxiety has no place to root itself. It simply cannot survive where presence is practiced. Let this presence be your anchor. Return to it whenever the mind begins to race ahead or revisit old doubts. Presence is not an escape from responsibility. It is the foundation of clarity. From here, you respond instead of react. You choose instead of panic. You move forward without leaving yourself behind. And so the unfolding continues, not rushed, not delayed, but precise. Everything you desire is responding to the version of you that is emerging through this calm expectation. You are becoming someone who no longer asks, will it work out? But gently affirms, I am aligned with what is unfolding. We have, stay here, stay open, stay receptive. Life is not testing your patience, it is honoring your trust. And with every breath you take in this state of quiet knowing, the path ahead becomes clearer, softer, and unmistakably welcoming. And in this welcoming softness, something even deeper begins to reveal itself, not as a thought, but as a feeling of belonging. You begin to sense that you are not a visitor in this world trying to earn your place. You are an extension of it, inseparable from its rhythms and intentions. The need to justify your existence dissolves, and with it, the tension that once accompanied every desire. This is where trust matures into intimacy with life. You no longer relate to the universe as something outside of you that must be persuaded or appeased. You feel it as an inner companion, responsive to your state of being. When you are aligned, life feels close, attentive, almost conversational. Events seem to answer questions you did not know how to ask. Solutions arrive gently, without fanfare, as if they had been waiting for your readiness. There is a quiet joy in realizing that nothing essential has ever been withheld from you. What felt like absence was often timing, and what felt like delay was often refinement. When you see this, resentment loosens its hold. You stop replaying old stories about what should have happened differently. The past loses its emotional charge, and in that release, energy returns to the present moment where it belongs. From here, forgiveness becomes natural rather than forced. Not because you approve of everything that occurred, but because you no longer wish to carry its weight. You understand that holding on to resentment does not protect you. It anchors you to a version of yourself that has already evolved. Letting go is not forgetting, it is choosing freedom over familiarity. As this freedom expands, you may notice that your sense of identity softens. You are less attached to roles, labels, and outcomes. You stop defining yourself by what you achieve or how others respond. Instead, you begin to experience yourself as presence, aware, responsive, and whole. From this place, self-worth is no longer negotiable, it is inherent. This inherent worth changes how you move through the world. You listen more deeply. You speak more honestly. You act with less fear of being misunderstood. When approval is no longer your currency, authenticity becomes effortless. You stop performing your life and start inhabiting it. And when challenges arise, as they inevitably will, you meet them differently now. You do not immediately ask, How do I get rid of this? You ask, what is this asking me to trust? In that question, resistance softens and insight enters. You find that many challenges dissolve once they are met with presence instead of panic. This is the quiet strength of alignment. It does not announce itself. It does not need validation. It simply steadies you from within. You become less reactive to the noise of the world because you are anchored in something deeper than circumstance. The outer world may fluctuate, but your inner state becomes increasingly consistent. And consistency is powerful. It is what allows expectation to remain calm instead of anxious. It is what allows patience to feel alive rather than stagnant. You are no longer waiting for life to change before you feel at ease. You are at ease, and life adjusts accordingly. Notice how this ease invites simplicity. You need fewer explanations, fewer reassurances, fewer guarantees. You trust the process not because you understand every detail, but because you recognize the intelligence behind it. You feel guided even when the path curves unexpectedly. This guidance is subtle, but it is reliable. It speaks through intuition, timing, and feeling. It does not rush you, and it does not abandon you. It asks only that you remain available to listen, to respond, to let go when holding on no longer serves you. And so you continue, not as someone chasing fulfillment, but as someone allowing fulfillment to catch up. Each step feels lighter because it is no longer burdened by fear of failure or urgency of proof. You are living from a quiet agreement with life that says, I trust where this is going. Let that agreement deepen. Let it inform how you meet the next moment and the next. There is nothing you need to add to yourself to be worthy of what is unfolding. You are already enough for the life that is moving toward you, even now, even here, even in this breath. And as this understanding settles fully into you, there is nothing left to resolve, nothing left to chase, nothing left to fix. There is only a gentle recognition that you have arrived where you were always meant to stand. Not at the end of a journey, but at the center of one. Here, life is no longer something happening to you. It is something moving through you, expressing itself as you. You feel it now as a quiet steadiness, a calm confidence that does not depend on circumstances. You no longer ask whether you are supported, because support feels woven into your very existence. You sense it in the way your breath continues without effort, in the way insight arrives when it is needed, in the way even uncertainty no longer feels threatening. It feels purposeful. This is what it means to live from alignment rather than anticipation. You stop leaning forward into tomorrow, hoping it will rescue you from today. You stop leaning backward into yesterday, wishing it had been different. You stand fully here, and in doing so, you discover that this moment contains everything required for the next to unfold. There is deep relief in realizing that you do not need to manage outcomes in order to be at peace. Peace is not a prize for having everything resolved. It is a choice to trust the intelligence that is resolving things even when you cannot see how. When you choose peace first, solutions follow naturally, without struggle. From this place, expectation becomes gentle and joyful. You expect good not because you demand it, but because it aligns with who you are becoming. You expect support because you have stopped arguing with your own worth. You expect movement because life itself is movement, and you are part of that flow. You understand now that faith is not believing something will happen someday. Faith is knowing that what matters is already happening at a level beyond appearances. Patience is not enduring delay. It is resting in the certainty that timing is precise and always in service of love. And so you relax, not as an escape, but as a return. You trust, not because you have been promised perfection, but because you recognize harmony beneath imperfection. You expect, not with urgency, but with calm appreciation, as someone who knows that the door has already been unlocked. Let this knowing accompany you as you move forward. Carry it into ordinary moments, into conversations, into pauses, into decisions, both small and large. Let it shape how you listen, how you respond, how you wait, and how you act. This is not something to remember occasionally. It is something to live. You are not behind. You are not early. You are exactly where alignment brings you when you stop resisting yourself. Everything you desire is already adjusting itself to meet you at the level of your calm, your trust, your openness. So breathe once more, slowly, gratefully. Feel the ease of being exactly here. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. Life is unfolding with you, through you, and for you. Relax and trust. Expect it the same day. Because in truth, the moment you align, it is already done. There comes a moment on the inner path when you begin to notice how much of your life has been spent explaining, justifying, correcting, defending your intentions, defending your choices, defending your past, defending your worth. And if you are honest with yourself, you may realize that this habit has been so deeply woven into your identity that you no longer question it. You simply react. Someone doubts you, and your chest tightens. Someone misunderstands you, and your mind races. Someone judges you, and suddenly you feel compelled to prove something not to them, but to the invisible jury you have been carrying inside your own consciousness. And yet, the soul has never asked you to defend yourself. The soul does not argue. The soul does not explain. The soul simply is. To stop defending yourself is not an act of weakness. It is one of the most powerful spiritual decisions you can make. Because the need to defend always arises from the same illusion. The belief that who you are can be diminished by someone else's perception. The ego lives inside that illusion. It survives by comparison, by approval, by validation. It believes that worth must be negotiated, earned, protected, or explained. The soul knows something very different. The soul knows that worth is intrinsic, not conditional. It is not given, and it cannot be taken away. When you stop defending yourself, you are not giving up your power. You are reclaiming it from a world that never had the authority to define you in the first place. Think about how often arguments arise, not because truth is at stake, but because identity feels threatened. Someone challenges your view, and suddenly it feels like they are challenging you. Someone disagrees with your choice, and it feels like an attack on your intelligence, your morality, your value. But the awakened mind begins to see that disagreement is not danger. Judgment is not a verdict. Misunderstanding is not a condemnation. These are merely experiences passing through awareness. When you no longer fuse your sense of self with opinions, roles, or outcomes, you become free to observe without reacting, to listen without collapsing, to remain centered even when the world is noisy. There is a quiet dignity that emerges when you stop defending yourself. It is not arrogance. It is not indifference. It is an inner steadiness that says, I do not need to convince you of who I am because I am no longer trying to convince myself. That steadiness is the signature of higher consciousness. It comes from knowing that your essence was complete before anyone formed an opinion about you, and it will remain complete long after those opinions have dissolved into silence. When you no longer argue with reality, reality begins to cooperate with you in ways that feel almost miraculous. The universe does not respond to explanations. It responds to alignment. You can spend your life defending your actions, or you can spend it embodying your truth. One is exhausting. The other is effortless. When you live from alignment, your presence speaks louder than any justification ever could. You do not need to announce who you are. You demonstrate it through the energy you carry, the compassion you extend, the peace you refuse to surrender. This is why the wisest people often say the least. They have learned that silence, when it comes from awareness, is not emptiness, it is authority. Defensiveness is rooted in fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being rejected, fear of being unseen or unworthy. But fear dissolves in the presence of awareness. The moment you notice yourself preparing to defend, pause, breathe. Ask yourself gently, what am I afraid will happen if I don't? You may discover that what you are protecting is not your truth, but an image, not your soul, but a story. And stories, no matter how convincing, are not who you are. They are costumes consciousness wears for a while, then sets aside. To stop defending yourself is to trust that life is intelligent. It is to trust that you do not need to control how you are perceived in order to fulfill your purpose. The river does not defend its direction, it flows. The sun does not defend its brightness, it shines. The tree does not defend its growth, it grows. And you were not designed to spend your life explaining your existence. You were designed to express it. When you align with that truth, you move out of resistance and into grace. This does not mean you never speak. It means you speak from clarity, not compulsion. It means your words arise from intention, not insecurity. There is a vast difference between responding and reacting. Reaction is automatic, ego-driven, and fueled by the need to protect an identity. Response is conscious, spacious, and guided by awareness. When you stop defending yourself, you gain access to that space. You begin to choose peace over proving, understanding over winning, presence over performance. Notice how often the ego wants the last word. It believes that closure comes from being right, but the soul knows that closure comes from letting go. There are no justified resentments in higher consciousness, because resentment requires a story of injury, and higher consciousness sees only lessons, growth, and unfolding intelligence. When you release the need to defend, you also release the need to blame. And in that release, forgiveness becomes natural, not as a moral obligation, but as a logical consequence of understanding that nothing real has ever been threatened. The practice of not defending yourself is a form of meditation in daily life. Each interaction becomes an invitation to remain present. Each criticism becomes an opportunity to observe without attaching. Each misunderstanding becomes a reminder that your worth does not fluctuate with circumstances. This is how inner freedom is cultivated, not in isolation, but in relationship. Not by avoiding the world, but by meeting it without armor. There is a profound relief that comes when you realize you no longer have to manage your image. You no longer have to curate how you are seen. You no longer have to correct every misconception. The mind relaxes. The body softens. Energy that was once spent on self-protection becomes available for creativity, love, service, and joy. This is not a small shift. It is a radical reorientation of consciousness from self-consciousness to soul consciousness. When you live this way, something extraordinary happens. People may still judge you, but their judgments no longer hook you. They may still misunderstand you, but their misunderstandings no longer define you. And paradoxically, the less you defend yourself, the more trustworthy you appear. The less you explain, the more grounded you feel. The less you argue, the more powerful your presence becomes. This is because power does not come from persuasion. It comes from coherence, from living in harmony with who you truly are. The higher state of consciousness you step into when you stop defending yourself is not aloof or detached. It is deeply compassionate. You begin to see that others defend themselves for the same reason you once did: fear, conditioning, pain, confusion. And instead of meeting defensiveness with defensiveness, you meet it with understanding. You no longer need to win because you are no longer playing the game of validation. You are playing the game of awakening. Remember this: you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be aligned with truth. You are not here to convince the world of your value. You are here to remember it. And when you remember, you naturally radiate a quiet confidence that does not need applause. You trust the universe not because everything goes your way, but because you know that whatever comes your way cannot diminish what you are. So the next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, see it as a gentle signal, not a command, but a reminder to return to awareness, a reminder to breathe, a reminder to choose presence over performance. Let the moment pass without resistance. Let the silence speak. Let your life, not your explanations, be the evidence of who you are. This is the freedom Wayne Dyer spoke of, the freedom that comes when you stop asking the world for permission to be yourself. When you stop defending, you stop fighting shadows. You step into alignment with a higher intelligence that has always been guiding you. And in that alignment, you discover a truth so simple and so profound that it requires no defense at all. You are already enough. You have always been enough. And nothing outside of you has ever held the authority to say otherwise. And as you remain in this space of non-defense, something subtle yet extraordinary begins to occur within you. You start to feel the difference between reacting from memory and responding from presence. Memory is heavy. It carries the weight of every past wound, every conditioned belief about how you should be seen, every learned reflex that once promised safety but now only tightens the knot inside your chest. Presence, on the other hand, is light. It has no history to protect and no future to secure. It simply allows life to move through you without obstruction. In this allowing, you discover that peace is not something you create, it is something you stop interfering with. The mind may protest at first. It may whisper that silence is surrender, that not explaining is agreement, that not correcting is failure. But these whispers are echoes of an old training, a world that taught you to equate worth with noise and strength with resistance. The deeper intelligence within you knows otherwise. It knows that true strength is spacious, not rigid. It knows that confidence does not announce itself, it radiates. When you no longer rush to clarify, justify, or persuade. You give yourself the gift of inner stillness. And from that stillness, clarity emerges on its own, unforced and precise. In this state, you begin to recognize how often defending yourself has been a way of defending the past. Old decisions, old identities, old versions of yourself that were necessary at the time but no longer reflect who you are becoming. When you stop defending, you allow yourself to evolve without apology. You stop dragging yesterday into today. You let each moment stand on its own, fresh and unburdened. This is living in the now, not as a concept, but as a felt experience where the heart is no longer braced for impact. There is also a deep humility that unfolds here, a humility that is not self-diminishing but self-liberating. You realize that you do not need to be right to be whole. You do not need to be admired to be at peace. You do not need to be agreed with to be aligned. Humility, in its highest form, is the willingness to let life be larger than your personal narrative. It is the quiet acceptance that every person you encounter is seeing the world through a lens shaped by their own history, fears, and hopes, and that none of those lenses have the power to alter your essence. As this understanding deepens, forgiveness ceases to be an effort and becomes a natural movement of consciousness. You forgive not because others deserve it, but because you no longer wish to carry what does not belong to you. You see that holding on to the need to defend keeps you tethered to the very energies you long to be free from. Releasing that need is an act of self-respect. It is saying gently and firmly, I choose peace over proving. And in that choice, the body relaxes, the breath deepens, and the nervous system finally receives the message that it is safe to rest. From here, life begins to meet you differently. Conversations soften, conflicts lose their charge. Even when disagreement arises, it no longer feels personal. It feels informational. You listen more deeply because you are no longer listening for threats. You speak more clearly because your words are no longer filtered through fear. And when silence comes, it feels rich rather than awkward, full rather than empty. Silence becomes a companion, a reminder that truth does not require volume. You may notice that the universe mirrors this inner shift in unexpected ways. Opportunities appear without struggle. Support arrives without solicitation. Guidance becomes more intuitive, less analytical. This is not coincidence, it is resonance. When you stop broadcasting defensiveness, you stop attracting situations that require it. You begin to live in harmony with a higher order one that does not test you through opposition, but teaches you through alignment. At this level of awareness, you understand that your life is not a courtroom where you must continually present evidence of your goodness, intelligence, or worth. It is a classroom, a sanctuary, a field of experience designed to awaken you to who you are beyond roles and labels. And the lesson is always the same, though it arrives in countless forms. Nothing real needs to be defended. Truth stands on its own. Love explains itself. Being requires no justification. So you walk forward now with a lighter step, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You trust the intelligence that breathes you, guides you, and unfolds your path with quiet precision. You let go of the impulse to manage how you are received, and in doing so, you finally receive yourself. This is the higher state of consciousness you step into, not elevated above others, but rooted more deeply in what is timeless, compassionate, and free. And in this freedom, you discover the simplest, most transformative realization of all. When you no longer defend yourself, you are no longer at war with life. You are in dialogue with it. You listen. You respond. You grow. You live not as an argument to be proven, but as a presence to be felt. And that presence, calm, awake, and quietly powerful, becomes your greatest contribution to the world. And as this presence stabilizes within you, you begin to sense a deeper reorientation taking place. Not dramatic, not announced, but unmistakable. It is as though the center of gravity within your being has shifted from the outer world to the inner landscape, where once you scanned faces for approval, tones for validation, outcomes for reassurance, you now rest in a quieter knowing. You are no longer negotiating your existence moment by moment. You are inhabiting it. This is the subtle liberation that comes when identity loosens its grip and awareness takes the lead. You may notice how time itself feels different here. Urgency fades. The need to rush toward resolution dissolves. When you stop defending yourself, you step out of the illusion that something essential is always at risk. You begin to understand that life is not an exam you can fail, nor a performance you must perfect. It is a process of remembering again and again that you are participating in something far more intelligent than the thinking mind. This remembrance softens the edges of experience. Even uncertainty becomes less threatening when you trust that you are held by a larger order. In this space, you also start to recognize how much energy has been reclaimed. Energy that was once bound up in rehearsing conversations, anticipating criticism, replaying misunderstandings. That energy returns to you now as vitality, creativity, and quiet joy. You feel more available not just to others, but to yourself. You listen inwardly with the same compassion you once reserved for defending outwardly. And in that listening, you hear guidance that does not shout, does not argue, does not insist, it simply invites. The ego may still appear from time to time, as it always does. Old reflexes may surface, the impulse to explain may rise, but now there is space around it. You do not shame it or suppress it. You observe it with kindness, understanding that it once served a purpose, and because you no longer identify with it, it loses its authority. Awareness watches. Choice returns. This is not perfection. This is mastery, gentle, patient, and profoundly human. As you continue living from this place, relationships transform, some deepen, some dissolve, some rearrange themselves in ways that feel both surprising and inevitable. You no longer cling to being understood. You value resonance over agreement. You discover that true connection does not come from convincing another of your truth, but from meeting them as they are, without armor, without agenda. And when connection is not possible, you release it without bitterness, trusting that alignment is always kinder than attachment. There is also a growing intimacy with life itself. Ordinary moments become luminous. A breath, a pause, a simple exchange carries a quiet richness that once went unnoticed. This is because you are no longer split, part of you present, part of you defending. You are whole in the moment. And wholeness has a way of revealing beauty where the fragmented mind once saw only problems to solve. Gradually, you realize that the practice of not defending yourself has become a way of being. It is no longer something you remember to do. It is something you naturally embody. You move through the world with an ease that does not depend on circumstances. Challenges still arise, but they do not destabilize you. Praise may come, but it does not inflate you. Criticism may appear, but it does not define you. You remain centered, not because you are unaffected, but because you are anchored in something deeper than reaction. And from this anchoring, trust blossoms not blind optimism, but a steady confidence in the unfolding intelligence of life. You trust that what needs to be said will be said. What needs to be clarified will clarify itself. What needs to fall away will do so without force. You trust that your path does not require constant defense because it is guided by a wisdom that does not make mistakes, even when it uses experiences you once labeled as wrong. So you continue gently and deliberately, choosing awareness over argument, presence over protection, truth over tension. You let your life speak in the language of alignment, and as you do, you discover that the quiet confidence you now carry is not something you created, it is something you allowed. It was always there, waiting beneath the noise, waiting for you to stop defending, stop proving, stop bracing, and simply be. And with this balance restored, you begin to sense that life is no longer pushing against you, nor are you pushing against it. There is a rhythm now, subtle, intelligent, trustworthy. You move with it rather than against it. Decisions arise with less struggle. You no longer need to force certainty before taking a step, because you have learned that clarity often follows movement, not the other way around. When you are not defending yourself, you are not frozen in self-doubt. You are responsive, fluid, alive. There is a new relationship with uncertainty that develops here. What once felt like danger now feels like openness. You understand that uncertainty is not the absence of guidance, but the presence of possibility. The mind prefers fixed answers because it seeks control, but the soul thrives in openness because it trusts direction. When you stop defending, you stop clinging to rigid positions. You allow yourself to be taught by experience rather than threatened by it. Life becomes a dialogue instead of a debate. This balance also reveals itself in how you relate to success and failure. Neither one defines you anymore. Achievement no longer inflates your sense of self, and setbacks no longer diminish it. You see both as movements within a larger unfolding waves on the surface of something much deeper and more stable. This stability does not come from certainty about outcomes. It comes from certainty about being. You know who you are, beyond roles, beyond results, beyond recognition, and that knowing cannot be shaken. As this understanding matures, compassion expands naturally. You see how many people are still exhausting themselves, trying to be seen, trying to be right, trying to be safe through defense. You recognize the tension in their words, the urgency in their reactions, the fear beneath their arguments, and instead of meeting that fear with resistance, you meet it with presence. You listen without needing to fix. You speak without needing to dominate. Sometimes you say nothing at all, allowing your calm to do the work that words cannot. There is a quiet courage required to live this way. It takes courage to remain open in a world that rewards defensiveness. It takes courage to be still when others are reactive, to be grounded when others are restless, to be silent when others demand explanation. But this courage is not effortful. It does not come from willpower. It comes from alignment, from standing in a truth that does not need reinforcement. Once you taste this kind of courage, you recognize it as strength without aggression, confidence without comparison. Gradually, the need to manage how you are perceived fades into the background of your awareness. You are no longer preoccupied with the story others are telling about you. You are engaged with the life you are actually living. Attention returns to the present moment, where power has always resided. You realize that defending yourself was never about protection, it was about distraction. And now that the distraction has fallen away, what remains is a direct, intimate connection with life itself. This is where balance reveals its deeper meaning. Not neutrality, not detachment, but integration. Mind and heart working together, action informed by awareness, stillness alive with movement. You do not retreat from the world, nor do you lose yourself in it. You participate fully without losing your center. You care deeply without clinging. You engage honestly without armoring. This is the equilibrium of awakened living. And in this equilibrium, something settles permanently within you. A quiet trust. Not that everything will go as planned, but that whatever unfolds will contribute to your awakening. You trust that you do not need to defend your path because it is uniquely yours. You trust that life knows what it is doing, even when the mind does not. You trust yourself, not the constructed self that seeks approval, but the deeper self that observes, learns, and grows through every experience. So you continue forward, not striving, not proving, not resisting. You move with a steady openness, allowing life to reveal itself step by step. You are no longer defined by reaction, nor driven by fear. You are guided by awareness, grounded in being, and balanced between heaven and earth, fully human, deeply conscious, and quietly free. And now, as this understanding settles into the deepest chambers of your being, you may notice a stillness that feels unfamiliar yet profoundly intimate. It is the stillness that comes when nothing inside you is arguing with the moment. You are not rehearsing explanations. You are not anticipating defense. You are not bracing for impact. You are simply here. And in this here-ness, you realize that peace was never something missing from your life. It was something waiting for you to stop interrupting it. You begin to sense that life has always been inviting you into this simplicity. Not a simplicity of circumstances, but a simplicity of relationship with yourself. When you no longer stand guard over an identity, you discover that awareness itself is enough. It holds joy without grasping, sorrow without drowning, love without fear. You no longer need to armor your heart, because you are no longer mistaking vulnerability for danger. Openness becomes natural when you trust the intelligence that lives beneath every breath. There is a gentleness now in how you move through the world. You listen with your whole being. You speak with care, not calculation. You allow others their opinions without absorbing them as truth. You have learned that you do not need to resist what is false when you are anchored in what is real. Truth does not compete. It does not shout. It does not defend itself. It simply remains steady, luminous, undeniable. And in this remaining, you touch something timeless within yourself, a presence that existed before you learned to explain yourself, before you learned to perform, before you learned to protect. This presence has watched every chapter of your life unfold with infinite patience. It has never doubted your worth. It has never questioned your belonging. It has always known that you were enough, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. From this place, gratitude arises effortlessly. Not gratitude for perfection, but gratitude for participation, for being alive in a universe that is constantly offering you opportunities to remember who you are. Even the moments that once felt adversarial now reveal their hidden gift. They taught you the cost of self-defense and the freedom of self-trust. They guided you gently and persistently back to yourself. You may still encounter noise. The world will not suddenly become quiet, but you have changed how you meet it. You no longer take its turbulence personally. You no longer confuse its opinions with your essence. You stand rooted while life moves around you, like a tree that does not argue with the wind. You sway when needed. You remain when needed. You trust your roots. And so you live now with a quiet confidence that needs no audience. You act from purpose rather than pressure. You allow life to unfold without constant commentary. You know when to speak, when to listen, and when to let silence carry the wisdom that words cannot. This is not withdrawal from life. This is intimacy with it. As you continue on your path, remember this gentle truth. The universe does not require your defense. Your soul does not require your explanation. You are not here to prove your value. You are here to express it. When you stop defending yourself, you stop fragmenting your energy. You gather yourself back into wholeness. And in that wholeness, you become a quiet blessing to yourself, to others, and to the unfolding world. Let this be the way you walk forward now. Not guarded, not hardened, not reactive, but awake. Awake to the intelligence that guides you. Awake to the peace that lives beneath every moment. Awake to the simple, liberating realization that nothing real about you has ever been in danger. And in this awakening, you find the deepest freedom of all, the freedom to be without defense, exactly as you are.